All right, we are back. Rush to Reason, Denver's Afternoon Rush, KLZ 560. Jim Pfaff joining us now, the Conservative Caucus. How are you, Jim?
I'm doing well. How you doing, John?
Good. Welcome back. And debate the other night, Tuesday night. Give us your thoughts.
Well, I won't say that Donald Trump won the debate. I think he missed a whole bunch of opportunities for zingers on Kamala Harris. But in a sense, he really did win it because the American people still got that exposure to Kamala Harris that works so significantly against her. I heard someone say that the debate is being won in overtime. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that because she lied many times about Donald Trump's record. She brought up the Charlottesville thing again.
Right.
She just really screwed that up. And people are noticing it. And then I just saw that Nicole Shanahan, RFK Jr.'s former vice presidential candidate, put out a great video that just shows all the best things that Donald Trump said. So net, it didn't bring him down, even though I think a lot of us would think he didn't quite win. But it's also not hurt him. It's also helped him a little bit, frankly, since this is playing out. People are fact checking it and finding out what's really going on. And I think he's got the message if he'll just stay on the economy.
Yeah, and I think his campaign especially, and I wish that's where he would have zinged some things back with her about, some of the economic things that she was stating, not only immigration, but I really wish he would have focused hard on the economic end of things. You've been there 3.5 years. We've got the highest inflation we've had in well over 10 decades, well over what we even had back in the 70s. The reality is it was bordering on hyperinflation under you guys. I wish he would have just zinged some things back along those lines, as in, you've been there, this is where it is, and what's your plan now?
Yeah, and by the way, one message is your inflation is still 20% higher than where prices were when I was president. Correct. And that's a fact. So
actually, Jim, probably more like 25% if you really want to get down to it.
Yeah, and the government's been the CPI number anymore.
Because they manipulate really that, as you know. Actually, if you really look at it, I'm probably even off on that. If you go back all the way to the beginning when all of this started and you look at what we had with 9, 10, 11% there for a while, stacked on top of one another, it's probably a total of 30. We would have had roughly 1.5 to 2 under Donald Trump. So if he'd have been there for 4 years, 2, 4, 6, 8 from, we're in the 22 to 25% range.
Yeah, and the other thing about it too is it's directly related to Biden policies.
That's
the
right.
Massive spending, and as Uncle Milton Friedman always says, inflation is always a monetary problem, and they've been
always caused by government
printing money like crazy.
That's right.
Yeah,
always caused by government. And again, I wish that's the only thing, Jim. And I love Trump. He's got my full support. Can do everything I possibly can to get him elected. Even coming to the back end of things now, and even explaining some things that he should have said that he could have really nailed her on, like you and I are talking right now. I just wish he would have done some of that for. Let's face it, the people, I did see the numbers on who watched the debate. The majority of it was older individuals. So you might have had some older independents in there that I wish he could have zinged some things at. The question I have for you is when you start looking at some of those younger independent voters, they weren't watching the debate. So in that case, I don't think it had much impact on them one way or the other. How does this campaign reach them? Because frankly, I'm not seeing much on social media coming out of the Trump campaign.
Well,
which, by the way, back in 2016, he was the master of, Jim.
Well, but keep in mind, remember he was, for example, on Theo Vaughn's podcast. I mean, he's been in some of these interesting and new places that he doesn't usually go to, and I think that's been seeping in and out in ways that we don't typically see because it's not traditional media, and it's really varied. There are a lot of people that watch Joe Rogan, but he's been on some other of these podcasts that do. Well,
the deal he and Elon did the other night is kind of an example of that, I guess. So to your point, he did some things there. What I'm getting at, though, is just the direct advertisements that frankly, I think should be hitting some of these, younger millennials or even, older Gen Xers. I mean, whatever group you're trying to reach, I think he should be trying to, and maybe he is, and I don't see those because I'm not in that age group, but you got to target those people some way, somehow.
Yeah, no, I do agree. And but I will tell you this as well. You don't win elections because you run ads. You have to do that. You need to spend time getting that message out in paid media. You win elections on the ground. And there are not just Trump campaign efforts and RNC efforts, and RNC efforts are usually not worth a whole lot, but there are a lot of independent efforts to go get people registered to vote, to get people out to the polls when November 5th comes around, that are propagating in the key battleground states. For example, my friend Cliff Maloney is, and also Scott Pressler are in Pennsylvania getting people registered to vote. They're having massive impact in voter registrations, and there are other efforts similar to that going on in the other key states. So that's going to have an effect that you don't see. Grassroots wins campaigns. You do have to have commercials and so forth, and that's necessary, but it's getting the people out to vote that matters.
Got it. What do you think his message, outside of the economic end of things, what do you think his message should be, to any voter? I shouldn't say that. I know the voter we need. I say it all the time. Yeah. The hardcore, you and I, we're in. I mean, we're voting for him. No offense, Jim, I don't need a message. You got to reach that independent voter that we need on our side. What message does he send to them?
Listen, it's the economy and immigration. Those are the biggest issues. He needs to pound at home. This Springfield, Ohio thing is being found as every day goes by to be more true, even though there were lies saying that what's going on there wasn't happening. It
really quick, I want to stop for a moment because I had this note in my notes earlier. And people that have listened to me for any length of time know my feelings on this. I absolutely despise city managers. They lie through their teeth. I don't know that there's a one of them out there, Jim, that I would give you a plug nickel for. They are the biggest waste of a office or a job, if you'd ask me. Basically, what a city manager does is what the city council should be doing and what they're paid to do, but they obfuscate those duties to the city manager, and then all those guys do is lie and cover for city council constantly. I don't trust a word any of them ever say.
Hey, listen, John, I mean, I'm all over the news in Colorado when I was on the city council in Woodland Park, and I had the city managers going after me, and I was going after them, too. They were lying to us.
I hate those guys, Jim. I mean, I don't mince any words about that. I don't think I've ever met a good one yet. I hate that job.
No, I think
my point was when I heard when I'm listening to the debate and I hear them say, well, we contacted the city manager, I'm thinking, and that means what?
Yeah. Well, listen, it's in the city manager's interest to say that everything's fine.
Absolutely,
so,
Jim.
And it's in the and to go to that, this is what's wrong with part of what's wrong with the media. When they want to go to these government officials to get the word, I'm not saying you don't do that, but if you don't go straight to the transparent things that citizens need, if you don't go to citizens, in fact, see, our whole system of government is a citizen system of government, not a government system.
That's right.
And that is an absurd way that media thinks, and they continue to think that way. And this is what we're battling in these crazy times that we're in.
The plus side is social media has done a good job, at least the last couple of days, of showing even video testimony of some of the folks living in those areas, validating, believe it or not, what Donald Trump said. Now, if I was Trump, would I have gone down that path? Probably not. But at the end of the day, he wasn't wrong because there's video from actual individuals that have been affected by this coming out and saying, I don't know what the city manager's thinking, but this is exactly what's happening.
Yeah, listen, these are hard times. We've got a lot of battles ahead of us, but I want to say and give people hope by saying, and I've got this pinned up on my X profile. During that debate, when Donald Trump was making points or when Kamala Harris was making points, independents were tracking very closely with Republicans when you see these meter things that show response in real time. Democrats were totally tracking with Kamala, these independents, this is one of those things in the undertow that you don't usually see. And I'm convinced that independents are not fooled by what Kamala Harris is saying. They're disgusted by her. Independents get upset with politicians, even Donald Trump, they can more quickly. They're upset with Kamala Harris because she's not really talking about what it is that she's going to do and what her plans are. That it really gets to people over time. And I really think that, I don't know precisely the outcome. I'm not making an absolute prediction, but my spidey sense tells me this is totally going Trump's way in spite of some of the criticisms that I might have from time to time with the campaign.
No, and I can't disagree with that, Jim. And I think one of the things I think smarter, not even upper income independent voters, but anybody that even currently owns a home that's an independent voter, looking at promises of her giving people $25,000, for example, as a first-time home buyer, that's offensive to somebody that already owns a home, Jim.
It is. And here's the other problem with it. It's platitudes.
Yep.
One thing that you know when she's talking is that she's a liar.
Yep.
I mean, she just is that way. This is her whole administration, her and Joe Biden's administration, has been a whale of lies. And they're only trying to play to the crowd in a way to get votes and maintain power and position. They are shallow in that manner.
Yep.
And with all of Donald Trump's faults that people want to say, people know that he does not have that kind of shallowness. Even if they don't like him a little bit, even if independents, I should say, don't like him a little bit, they still know the guy's not shallow when it comes to this stuff.
Excellent.
And I think that that works pretty well if you can maintain it for winning in an election.
Awesome. Jim, how do folks find you?
Everyone needs to go to theconservativecaucus.org. That's conservativecaucus.org. And they can go to @JimPaff, Pfaff, on X, and follow what I'm talking about there. And I want to encourage everyone, if you want to learn how to be effective in the grassroots, go to theconservativecaucus.org. We've got the tools there that will help you be successful.
Jim, as always, I appreciate it, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, John.
You bet. Have a great night. John from